We pray to the content gods. May you bless this content. May we produce bountiful content.
You know how, like, have you ever seen the Narnia movies where, like, right before they charge, they're like, for Narnia!
Yeah.
And for content! Hit record on the podcast. It's our battle cry.
We pray to you, ancient content gods of E-Bomb's world and Newgrounds. May you bless us.
I scream algorithm as I go to hit record.
May this content go viral. May people binge it. And all the other words that are normally negative, except for when we casually use them in conversation to describe content.
Content.
Oh.
Content caviar.
May many people doom scroll this as they binge their daily content that is viral.
You can't doom scroll a podcast, though.
No, I'm just the content in general.
Come on, Kevin, learn your content.
Well, you should be diversifying our content more.
What do you mean? I'm already queer. What more do you want?
No, I mean like the actual mediums in which it's expressed. You know, we got to have reels, we got to have shorts, we got to have TikTok engagement. We got to make sure we're doing TikTok stories, right? And the TikTok stories can just be reproduced tiny portions of the TikToks that we're making that are tinier portions of the podcast that we record that usually gets uploaded to Spotify and YouTube. But then we can also break that out and repost it as reels and shorts on YouTube, right? And then we can monetize those. Yeah. And then as we monetize those, we come back around.
I mean, everything you're saying is correct.
The vicious cycle.
Let me counterpoint you for a second, Kevin.
What?
I'm busy.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, me too. We're too busy. This is as I've said before, this is our fun little hobby jobby.
Hobby jobby. I don't even do TikTok or Instagram or anything for Magnum Opus. I don't even do anything outside of YouTube for the one thing that I actually get paid to do now.
It's fucking wild. Like let's be real. The level of effort it would take for you and I to concertedly create decent content is low. Like it's not a lot. But we're so lazy in this realm. We're busy. We're not producing content because we're content.
I'm busy, Evan.
But this is content. Roll it. All right. You ready to clap?
Wait.
What?
You forgot about the sound effect.
What sound effect? God fucking. Why? Is it an eagle? It sounds like an eagle when you do it. It doesn't sound like a caw. It's close to a screech.
Why don't you like it? I worked on it just for you.
You didn't work on that. Don't fucking lie to me. You did it once and decided it was good. That was the work.
Like, it has not changed.
Don't say work. I've done that for you multiple times. This is for you, Kev. Are you ready to clap?
Yeah.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
What?
Fucking right on time. Every time. Welcome back to another episode of the Unpop Podcast. I'm your Capitan Todo El Siempre, Kevin Miner. He, him. With me as always is.
Your total El Siempre, El Capitan,
nope.
They, them, Odie Matthews.
Not Capitan.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
We're co-captains now. All right.
I think today I'm going to be the captain.
Oh, great. Well, let's fucking...
I'm feeling mutiny. I'm feeling rebellious.
Let's shove off.
I'm feeling stabby.
All right, hold on. I'll let me go find a champagne bottle and break it.
Christen this
Let's
new
christen
ship.
the new shit. Oh, wait. Is that what we should do to change things up? Should you be the captain and I can be the chef? Is that how this goes now? Are you ready for pigs in a blanket every day? Are you ready?
Great. Pigs in a blanket and lemon water.
I love how in any hypothetical example we give, like any analogy we craft of like this ship where whatever job I'm doing is failing. Like it's not going well.
Everything we do fails, which means we're winning.
I am the lovably defunct cartoon character I have always aspired to be. Like Eek the cat, like the caveman guys from the dinosaur cartoon back when we were kids. You probably don't even remember. Never mind. You know what? Just fucking take it away, Odie. It's a new era for us and America this week.
Yep, which is why we're going to talk about something important today.
What is that? Shoes?
Fast and the Furious 1 opens up on 3 streetcars with neon lights glowing underneath as they chase down a semi-truck to steal DVDs.
Yep.
Our man
DVD
behind
players.
the wheel, Dominic Toretto.
Yes.
Why is he doing this? Let's find out.
Capitalism.
Today on Unpop, we discover what makes Fast and the Furious the greatest car franchise on the planet.
Go. Ahead.
Did you like that?
Yeah, it's
I
fine.
didn't
Keep
I
going.
didn't rehearse that one either.
I'm not protesting this time. You forced this enough. This is Stockholm syndrome at this point. You know what? That's what this is. It's Stockholm. You're like, I'm the captain. I'm like, I guess you are now. Yeah, you know what? You said it enough times.
Once.
I'm a pushover.
I introduced myself one time as the captain
somebody
in the
walks
intro.
in. Maybe that's why I don't like Tom Hanks, because if I was Captain Phillips, I would have just given the ship up.
He would have been like, I'm the
Look
captain.
at me,
now.
I'm
You're
the
like,
captain.
cool,
I would
here's
have been
the
like,
keys.
yeah, you were 5 minutes
Lock
ago.
up at
You
8.
walked in this room with guns. Yeah, you are.
What are we
You've
actually
been
talking
the
about
captain. I
today,
don't know if
Kevin?
you've been paying attention. You're the captain. Well, we're talking about who is the current captain steering the ship of America. We've had a no politics policy on the podcast for a long time, right? And I think
we
we've
didn't wanna
done
hurt
very
all you
well
sensitive.
considering the political climate and the things that we are and represent in the world, right? Because I am a confident, competent, straight, I don't know, not competent maybe, but straight white man, a cis het white dude, right? Like that's the easiest way to like just summarize what I am visibly and
What
on
are
paper,
you?
right? I look like a proud boy.
Ooh, don't say that.
Well, no, I'm just saying I look like one. Like if you saw me on the street, you'd be like, "Oh, look at that white dude with a shaved head."
Oh, we're buying you a wig.
Yeah, well, that's fine. That's fine. No, we can't because I started using hymns. We could talk about that. You want to talk about that? Bro's getting thick hair again.
I know about him.
Here's the thing.
Yeah, your thick hair's coming in great, Kevin.
It's actually working. Like I can feel it. Anyway,
Ooh.
so
Should I use it?
No, you don't need it.
Oh,
I'm trying it, and honestly, if I don't cover because this spot was thinning, like if I don't cover up the area that was thinning, that was like
You got
that
the Bruce
I
Willis
didn't
effect.
like looking at, right? Like if I don't cover that up with the thickness that comes in with the hymns, I'm just going back to shaving it, and like whatever, it was worth a try. That's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I mean, you
I'm
got
not,
the same. It's the Bruce Willis effect. You've got the same like widow's peak because like that's how his hair grew. Like
Oh,
where
people
you're
love
missing hair is
Bruce
exactly
Willis.
where he was missing hair.
Are you saying that I'm more of like I'm a diehard type? Is that what's up?
I'm saying that if I was in a hotel and it became under attack by German terrorists, I would 100% trust you to walk around in the air vents with a tank top on and save me.
Hell yeah. Dude, you know
Absolutely.
I would do that. But here's the thing. We've already established this. It would be an action comedy, and I would be relatively incompetent. Like, I'd drop an Uzi and kill people. You know? Like, that's...
They would, like, shoot him in the foot, and they would, like, fall over onto a knife.
It's very much like... what's Bruce Willis's character's name in Die Hard? I forget. What's his name?
John McClane.
It's very much John McClane meets Mr. Bean, for sure. Like, it's like the annoying protagonist slash
Your John
action
Bean.
hero. Yeah, like there's
New action series, John Bean.
John Bean coming at you from the vents, dropping an Uzi. Oops, killed all your minions. Yeah, so we've had a no politics policy on the podcast for a long time. I think we've done a very good job considering the political climate of the United States. I was saying I am a cis het white dude, right? It's like that's where we are, baby. I was born this way, like Lady Gaga says. And
Absolutely.
you, my friend, I'll let you describe yourself.
I am a human being, Kevin.
You're a human being, but in a sociological sense, you are.
Well, as an openly queer person.
Yes. See, there. Simple. Cis het person, openly queer person. Here we are.
Yeah.
All right. Sitting across the digital table from each other every week.
For now.
For now, yeah.
Yeah, it's obviously
for now, Kevin.
It's a threat.
All right.
One day you're gonna have to do this in person with me. No, I mean obviously the political landscape.
Yeah.
What I've said to everybody and what I'll open
political
up
landscape sucks.
Yeah, God does it ever.
Go on.
But what I've said to everybody and how I've explained why I've been so openly vocal for probably the first time about how I truly feel when it comes to the political landscape.
Yes.
And the way I describe it to people is this wasn't just a presidential election for a lot of people. For a lot of people, including myself, this was about the future of my rights and the rights of a lot of people in this country.
Yeah.
And so it's very scary. It's very scary.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people a lot of people will point at the Constitution and talk about, the indelible rights that we have as people. But the fact of the matter is there are groups of people that still yet exist within the United States who are natural-born United States citizens who aren't guaranteed the same rights and treatment based on who they are as other people in this country. And that's kind of always been the case, right? Like that's nothing new for America. Sad, but true.
Exactly. And this. Oh, so you actually, real quick.
Yeah.
I want to talk about. This is how I kind of wanted to open it.
Yeah, hit me.
Because obviously, me saying like the rights of humans, like that's a big statement.
Yeah.
So I just want to back that up a little bit with some of the things that have been openly talked about by our new president-elect. And what that means.
Let's call him Donnie T, so that we don't have to say president-elect or whatever the fuck. Like,
not my
let's just call him Donnie T. Give me some things that Donnie T has said.
Okay, so the shitbag has. Sorry, Donnie T. Sorry,
tell me how you really feel, Odie.
The fucking piece of shit, orange-looking, no makeup, tubby lard motherfucker.
None of that's ever changed. All right, keep going.
Donnie T. So. A lot of people have talked about this Project 2025 and a lot of people on the MAGA movement. And I'm gonna refer to them as MAGA because I know Republicans that didn't vote for him.
Same.
So I don't
I'm glad you said that because I feel the same way. I feel like there are Republicans and then there's MAGA. Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I know, like I said, I know personally Republicans that that even voted for him in the previous elections that were like, nah, I'm not voting for him this time. So
yeah.
I want to make that clear that I'm not talking about Republicans as a whole. I am talking specifically
MAGA.
Specifically, if you voted for him this election, I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
You're
presenting a case to them.
But Trump is involved with Project 2025. He's had staff members previously and currently that he's looking at that have been involved with Project 2025. It's no secret that he has openly denied being a part of it because obviously he's going to, but now it's very clear that that's on his horizon.
Yeah.
And some of the things that are in Project 2025 that should concern a lot of people. And specifically, if you voted for Trump and you are married with a wife or you have a daughter, you should have thought about this more before you cast your vote. Because one of the major things is people think that the gender affirming care that he wants to ban is just for people that want to transition, but it's not always that. Part of gender affirming care can be help for just women or men in general that need things. And one of the most important things to look at when we talk about the severity of the choice of having Donnie T as our new dictator is when you look at him overturning Roe v. Wade because he stacked the Supreme Court, the mortality rate of teen pregnancies because they can't get the help that they need, because people think that abortion rights and pro-choice, it comes down to, well, you kill a baby or you don't kill a baby. But part of that comes with if there's any complications along the way with that pregnancy, if they need any special treatment along the way with that pregnancy, if they get into the third trimester and there's complications where they have to get an abortion, which is a very low amount of cases when it comes to pregnancies, but they're still there. And now without those safeguards of having the healthcare they used to have, we have seen a spike in teen pregnancy mortality rate just from Roe v. Wade being overturned alone. So the first and the most major, even before I even put queer rights, just because it's only been 100 years since women have gotten the 19th Amendment.
Some people seem to forget that.
Exactly, is the fact that a lot of these come down to like women's rights, honestly. And like a very telling part of this is the day after the election in Texas, at the University of Texas, there are white dudes with giant signs that say property includes, and the first one is women, then slaves.
Yep.
So like already it's telling that the people that voted for him know exactly what they're going to get. And Trump said it himself. I'm going to protect the women whether they like it or not. So the first one and the most major one is basic women's rights. I mean, the healthcare rights, the abortion rights, all of that. Secondly, he has been very open about dismantling and destroying anything LGBTQ. Yeah. And I have friends in the circle that have already said and posted things like, does this mean I need to pretend to be straight now? Does this mean that I need to deny if I know other queer people?
Well, depending on the state that you live in,
100%.
Yeah.
And so I want to take a moment to just kind of say this. It's something that I've talked about offline with close friends that are queer.
Yeah.
And it's something that I
so
have
not
to
me
acknowledge.
yet. So not,
not you yet. But I'm going to
close
say
friend. Close friend. I didn't hit all the criteria on that one. All right.
I've been thinking about it a lot.
Yeah. Hit me.
The thing about me, and I understand a lot of people saying, "Oh, well, now that he's he's going to be president, I got to think about myself." And I understand the mindset of, well, now it's kind of like survival mode.
Yeah.
Right. I acknowledge the fact that on the surface, I 100%, whether I want to or not, and I don't like it, I can pass as a straight man. Like, obviously, I know that, and I accept that. Like, I'm not happy about the fact that when you look at me, that's exactly what you see. But it's the reality that I have to accept, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to this, there's a part of me that's like, oh, well, realistically, I probably, if I don't choose to be openly outward the way that I normally am, I can easily fly under the radar if I'm in an area or a situation where people don't like who I am, right? And I think that's a very, like, if you're queer or anything and you're thinking that way, I think that's totally reasonable. But the other thing that I realize is that because of the position that I'm in with that, it means that I need to fight even harder. Yep. Because there are people out there that I know that can't straight pass. But what it really comes down to, and the main point is that I shouldn't have to, and I don't want to. Yep. I was talking to somebody about it, and they were like, "Oh, like, don't worry about it. Like, you're gonna be fine. Like, you don't have to change who you are. Like, you can still be you. You can still be openly about like who you are and everything. Like, trust me, these people aren't gonna be that bad about it." And it's like, I understand where that person's coming from, where it's very easy to look at this and be like, well, why would you change who you are? It's just a president for 4 years. But, and this is the best example that I can give anybody, somebody I work with who is openly trans in a very right-wing leaning industry, got ran off the road by somebody with a Trump flag. Yeah. Because they have the trans sticker, the LGBTQ sticker, and they had Harris. And they got ran off the road, and as the person went by them, they flicked them off and called them an in-lover. Yep. So, yeah, I on one hand, really, anybody could hide who they are in order to make it through this.
By in-lover, you mean the bad word that begins with N.
Yeah. And all this is to say is that if you know somebody that's going to be affected or is worried, like, take the fact that nobody's affected by anything yet, right? Because he's not even been inaugurated yet. Yeah. But one thing that I want to encourage everybody, because I think unintentionally it happened to me, and like I said, I don't fault these people, but if you have anybody that's going to be or potentially could be affected by this, or like I said, is just scared or worried, don't tell them it's going to be okay. Yeah. Because they don't want to hear that right now. Yeah. Because the truth of the matter is you're probably going to be okay if you're somebody that's not going to be affected by this. So let's just be aware of the people that are, you know, and to take it a step further, there's obviously going to be allies like yourself who are going to stand up and fight. And like, that's great.
Already doing it.
And just something that I want people to keep in mind, because I don't want to have to pretend to be straight for the next 4 years. And like, whether people want to accept it or not, like, there is a very real fear of what's on the horizon.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless.
Oh, big time. Well, and you know, it's the thing that's the most telling, because I sit at a lot of tables. That's the best way that I can put this, right? I sit at a lot of tables, and I sit at a lot of tables with people who hold very different opinions from me, regardless of whether it's far left or far right. political opinion, whether it's social theory, whether it's a philosophical standpoint, whether it's just like base level surface aesthetic differences, or gender, sexual like I literally I'm very lucky that I won. Let's levy this period right now. One, I recognize how lucky I am to have straight white privilege as a man, right? Like I see it. I'm very aware of it. I don't feel bad because of it because I have literally no control over it.
You can't help
I'm just going to do what I can with it, right? So like
exactly.
It does and I've had people try to and this is like before I get into what I'm saying. But I've had people try to white guilt me, straight shame me, but on the same token I've had people in the straight community and in the white community call my little half black brother, literal actual half black brother, half brother, the N-word, right? Yeah. And I've had people in the straight community then also say that I'm gay and just don't know it. I've had this plethora of experiences. So I have privilege, but I also have negative circumstance, right?
Absolutely. And I just, because I really like the way you said that, if the fact that you acknowledge that you have this privilege, and like to some extent, honestly, because like I said, because I appear that way, I have the same, like on the surface, I have straight privilege. You
have covert privilege.
Yeah, I'm undercover.
you could very easily be undercover if you wanted. Yes.
Well, that's my point. And what I like about what you said though is that you acknowledge it and you accept it, and like you can't help it. I mean, the truth of the matter is nobody can help if you're born into privilege. Like if you're born white and a man, like you can't really help that you're going to automatically be the default. But what I like about that is that you kind of already said it, is you use that position to help, to make a difference. Like you accept it and you use what you can through the benefits you're given with that privilege to then help the people who aren't.
Yes.
And that is where I think a lot of people forget that they can do that when they're like, a lot of people will be like, oh, I have this privilege and like, I don't want it, but like, what am I supposed to do? Help.
Be good. Just do the
help.
same thing you would do if you didn't have it, because being a good person has nothing to do with what privilege you do and don't have, right?
Exactly.
Privilege that you do and don't have oftentimes is something that's not given to you anyway. It's something that, based on where you are in the world and what you look like and what family you belong to, you have. Period. Right? Like it's like. And it's not like you chose it, like that's just where you are. And so acknowledging it, and then what you choose to do with privilege is more important than having the privilege, right?
Agreed.
So getting back into that, like I'm fully like I woke up and I was ready to call. I told you, I'm like, I either have to, because I went to bed before anything was solved, and I was like, I either have to call one group of friends and tell them it's not the end of the world and we're not putting litter boxes in all the school bathrooms, or I have to call, which is completely unfounded, or I have to call another group of friends and actually express care and concern and let them know that I'm here for them, right? And so one was kind of like a half funny, but also just like reminding them, hey, just so you know, like all of these right-wing conspiracy theories aren't actually going to come true. The other side, I have to call them up and go, hey, just so you know, the world has become less safe for you because of this. And it's not because, and I think a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump missed the point. It's not the fact that you voted him in that's the problem. It's that there are so many people who wanted him to win because they view that as a buffer for their hate and intolerance, right? And that's the bigger issue to deal with for the next 4 years. Donald Trump's not coming around literally kicking gay people and like spouting slurs. It's the platform that he represents and the way that he treats the multicultural nature of America that makes other people who have the same privilege I have act negatively with the privilege. And you know what? That's the fucking issue that we were voting against.
Yep.
We're not voting against Donnie T. We're voting against the guys who then took to social media and said, your body, my choice. We're voting against the people who sent out mass text messages to African-American people or people who are just of darker skin color saying, get ready to report to the cotton fields. That's what we were voting against. Because it's not just him, but he opens that door for them.
And to piggyback on that even more, why would you vote for somebody? How can you sit there honest question. How can you sit there and say that you love American and you're a patriot and you're a freedom fighting, loving, red, white, and blue, star spangled shit banner, fucking all 9 yards, right?
Yep.
And then openly vote for a guy who said things like the other side of the people in America are animals. Saying that on day one there's never going to be another election, saying that the American dream is dead.
Yeah.
You're going to vote for somebody that openly has talked about how much is wrong with America. And here's a funny part. If there's any still MAGA people listening, which I doubt there are, but if
no,
there are, let me just say this to
like
you.
There are.
The golden poster child of the Republican Party, Ronald Reagan, who, by the way, terrible fucking president.
Oh, yeah. Reaganomics, baby.
Awful human being with awful policies that have fucked this country into oblivion. But let me just ask you.
Speaking of economic policies.
Right? But Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
There is this video mashup I saw of a creator where Ronald Reagan is saying all of these things like, hey, if you're American, it means this. And like, don't give up on this thing and make sure you believe in this thing. And every single thing that Ronald Reagan says where he's like, don't say that don't say that America's best days are behind her. And then it cuts to a clip of Donald Trump being like, the American dream is dead and we're fucked. Basically this person took the poster child of the Republican Party and used his words to show that everybody that supports Donald Trump that has said that he is the next Ronald Reagan and the next best thing for the Republican Party, he is the exact opposite of everything that only the party stands for, but also what political figures that are staples of that party from history stand for. Yeah. And to go even a step further, the fact that you would vote for somebody that openly wants to take away the rights of other human beings, all because you're a little sissy snowflake and you're scared that maybe in your bumfuck population of 200 town in the middle of bumfuck Kansas, maybe there might be one queer person that uses a different bathroom than what you like. Yeah. Really? That's what you're scared about? You're a little fucking bitch. Sorry. You heard it here first.
No,
you're a bitch.
That's fine. Yeah, well, and I honestly would be like, whoa, Odie, slow down. But I've heard so, and this is not me saying I've heard of a friend who dealt with this. I have heard so much negative language comfortably lobbied at people of color, people of different gender persuasions, people who are non-binary, people who are trans. And I have trans, non-binary. I have friends who are not me, and I love them. And then I have friends who very much are me on paper and visibly, and I hear them say these negative things. And I'm like, in person, I can be like, in the moment, and this is the best I can do, I can be like, well, hold on. I can slow it down and stop it. I'm not going to jump out and be like, you're wrong, you're a bad person, because I believe that people who actually think negatively of other groups are misinformed, willfully ignorant sometimes, but sometimes just innocently ignorant, just because of what surrounds them in the world. There are some people who voted for Donnie T who they're legitimately surprised when you inform them that they voted on the same side as David Duke and the KKK. They're like, wait, they still exist? And you're like, yes, very much so. They are a domestic terrorist group, and you and them apparently have enough values that align that you voted for the same person. That's the real thing. And the real thing that I would I would levy toward anyone is, all right, you and a domestic terrorist group have voted for the same person. How does that make you feel? When you really, really, if you're able to be deeply honest, turn the lens inward and really ask yourself that question, looking at that group and all the harm that they do and cause, not just in an analogous or metaphoric way or sociological way, but in a legit physical, personal, real way, they cause harm in the world, and you have voted the same as them.
Well, I think it's really telling about where we're at, that we would rather vote somebody that is a convicted felon, is a known rapist, has more failed businesses than we've had presidents, is open about wanting to dismantle things like the Department of Education, wanting to get rid of things like Social Security, has been openly violent, has started an insurrection. Yeah. We would rather vote for that person than a woman.
Yeah. Dude,
we did this twice now.
Well, what it comes down to, at least now. from what I've been able to gather, because I'm not going to just not pay attention to to other people's media because like I'm not going to disavow any arm of the media. What I'm going to do is take it in an objective lens, right?
Yes,
and,
but let me say real quick too.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Kamala was like the best candidate.
No, she
like I'm
sucked.
not saying.
Well, she doesn't suck.
She was better than
fine.
Trump.
She was fine. Yeah,
she was better than Trump. That's the baseline.
She was better than Biden. Like,
oh yeah, exactly.
Like
she
was better than Trump and Biden, in my opinion.
The baseline is be better than both of those two, and she was.
Yeah, so. And she was, and that's it. Like,
that's it. I just want to make that clear.
Younger,
that, like,
better, more in touch, more in tune. Yeah,
I'm not sitting here saying that like, oh my god, I loved her so much, and she was great. No,
yeah,
she was the best option we had.
She was a fucking cop. She was a fucking cop. like we. This is how you separate the difference. BIPOC communities and LGBTQ communities were ready to vote for a cop before Donald Trump. Let's put it that way. But no, like ultimately, I'm never going to completely disavow an arm of the media, regardless of how disconnected they are from the realistic realm of American culture. Now, the tough thing that you have to deal with, right, when you're having any sort of these conversations, because we can't change the election, right? We can't just storm the Capitol and shit on the floor and pick up Nancy Pelosi's phone and like
we could. I won't.
I love that example is what I can give when the results of the last election actually caused that, right? But meanwhile, and I would like to point out, this is very indicative of who is on what political side based on the reaction that's occurring, because what's happening in our communities is the people who are concerned for women and LGBTQ rights. We're like, okay, well, we need to get together in groups and figure out how to protect ourselves, right? In a meaningful, democratic, passive way, right? Whereas last time January 6th happened, and all I have to do is say January 6th, and everyone's well aware. It was a storming of the Capitol, right? Like it was people who were alt-right Republicans who it was the MAGA movement. It was the MAGA people. MAGA people stormed the Capitol, not
sore losers.
Yeah, exactly. And meanwhile here we're having these conversations where we're like, all right, well, cool. Well, how do we prepare for the next 4 years? Because we're like, we're not going to overturn the fucking election.
I've accepted the fate that has been dealt to me.
Just blows my mind how that could and it's so easy with misinformation for it could be so easy for a Democrat to now go and take the same stance and stoke fear and the fires of hate within people and say we need to stop this election from becoming real, like let's all storm, and that we could have our own QAnon conspiracy, which disappeared conveniently after it was proven not true. Like we could have all those things. The MAGA group just plays into it so fucking easily. They're so emotional and so rooted in fear that they're easily manipulated by those things. Meanwhile, you have this other group of diverse, collected peoples who exist within the United States going, hey, all right, well, we're going to get together at the library this weekend, and we're going to talk about what resources we have. Big shout out. My area, Glint of Hope, Cam Cardinale, already found a way to supply free mental health care to people who are LGBTQ plus that are going to experience severe stress over the next 4 years. Like, what a great fucking job. I can't wait to hug that guy. I've known him and his parents his entire life, and he represents Lower Adirondack pride, and he already, like, look at what he's doing. He's putting a smile on his face, and he's going, what can I do to help? Right? He's not going, I have to disavow this, I have to deny this. He's going, no, this is reality, and I accept it, and we're going to move forward and just do the best that we fucking can. You know?
So you mentioned something that I want to bring up because funny enough, we joked about TikTok and stuff at the beginning.
We will always joke about TikTok.
I no longer have a personal TikTok, and I'm probably about to delete my personal Instagram too. My TikTok got banned because I made a video, and I want to talk about this.
Hit me.
I made a video, and I simply I was attacking a little bit. But
okay, you're being honest. You're being honest.
The
What'd
point
you
of
say?
my video was more about the information, and basically I said, if you look at the top 20 smartest states based on education,
100%,
only 4 of them voted for Trump.
Yes,
and it starts at number 12.
Yes,
so it was like 12, 16, 18, 19. Yeah, it was like something like that, right? The top 10 states that have the best education all vote historically Democrat.
Yes.
And I said that, and I said, it's interesting to me that if you look at the bottom 15, so the 15 of the quote unquote dumbest states, right? Majority of them, almost all of them, vote Republican. And it's scary to me that a majority of the states that don't have access to good education are the ones that continually vote for people that then want to dismantle things like the Department of Education.
Yeah.
So what happened was people heard me use the word education, and immediately my comments were filled with, college doesn't mean you're smart. Someone's been indoctrinated into having bachelor degrees, meaning that you're smart. And what's funny about that, I can see the look on your face right now. What's funny about that is it just kind of proves my point even more, that if you think that education in a state means that the private institutes that are colleges have any attribution to that, and that the Department of Education controls that, then clearly our system is failing, because what I'm talking about is kindergarten through 12th grade.
Yeah.
The thing that, you know, you go to in your state that's run by your state.
Yeah.
Because I could go to high school in bumfuck middle of nowhere, Florida.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I did. And I could go to college at fucking Harvard if my grades are good enough.
Well,
like, that's a huge stretch. But my point is that, like, the college in your state does not mean, like, that's not what I was getting at.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So no personal TikTok for you anymore?
No, I think.
Why not? I'm gonna argue against this on the podcast so that it's recorded. I think you should have one, and I think you should get banned as many times as it takes. I don't care.
This is the third time.
That's fine. Keep going.
This is the third time I've gotten banned from TikTok.
Keep going. They can't cancel you, baby.
But yeah, you see what I'm saying though? Like, isn't that interesting that I immediately got attacked because they heard education and they thought bachelor's degrees and college and stuff, but clearly that's not even close to what I'm talking about.
That's just indicative of who's on the other side of the argument. You know, like
it's scary.
Me thinks the lady doth protest too much, right? It's that classic scenario. Do you know what that reference is? Okay, cool. Well, you know, and here's an interesting thing that I'll share that might shed a little bit of light on this. I was a complete jock in high school as far as like my approach to high school went. Like I did my homework and I got like high 80s, low 90s all the time. And it was just because I did the work. It wasn't because I was like going out of my way to study and educate myself or anything like that. And then I got into college and I realized, oh no, wait, shit, I actually have to do work now. And that's when I finally started learning. And it was in that private institution that I learned the most that I would ever learn. And although I hate college debt, and I will still point at college and go, well, there's predatory loaning services and this is actually a broken institution, I'm using the education that institution gave me to do that. So like there's a little catch-22 there, like grateful for the education I had, but now I have to use it to point at you and go, your system's broken. And the same with high school. Like I was given enough of an education that I could then in college, where I was very much like learning how to learn and how to be higher educated, and reading more. I really started reading the most in college. Like the first time I read a book front to back was my senior year of high school. Like that's fucking telling. And then and then I've read more and more and more, and now I have a small library that grows every year, and I continue to educate myself, and I read Francis Fukuyama and people who I think should be taught in high schools now. Like they're very they're under, it's not that they're progressive, they're understanding the evolving nature of society, because it's not, humans might not have evolved that much, but society fucking has. And so, you know, like I have this education and I can point back at the system and say it's broken, but ultimately when you look at the states that are voting for him and the states that are voting for democracy itself, I would say, the states that see the threat to democracy that is a Republican-controlled state, which we now have, unfortunately, they're voting against that. And it's not, once again, going back to what we said, a lot of people, and this is a highlight that the Democratic Party has failed too, but like a lot of people were just voting for Kamala because they didn't like Donald Trump. And the unfortunate thing is we don't get, like you got a ballot, I got a ballot. Like when you get the ballot, there's two choices. There's not, and then you could write in a third. Like, no, fuck off. Like, it sucks so bad that we have this bipolar political social structure now, right? And that's what it is. It's bipolar, and that's how the world feels. It literally felt to people who were drifting further and further away from center that voting for the opposite candidate meant the end of the country. That's bipolar. That is a bipolar thought. It's either mania or depression. Republican, right? You know, and that's what it means to be so far from the center. And there's many people who I've met who would say, well, I'm only fiscally Republican. I'm only a Republican in an economic sense. I'm conservative when it comes to the economy. But then they voted for Donald Trump anyway. And I'm like, well, we're a nation that our imports continually outpace our exports. We don't export enough, period. We are a nation that needs to function within the system of global capitalism, which he historically and actively has said he does not want to do.
Tariffs, baby.
And so I'm
Inflation.
looking at that and I'm just like, I don't think you're seeing the same thing. And, you know, I'm prepping myself because I'm going to have so many conversations with so many Republican friends of mine who are going to be defending this vote. But it's not about the vote to me anymore. The vote's done. It happened. We did it.
It's over.
So I'm not talking about that anymore. What I'm talking about is what we need to do to make this country better moving forward, which means, in my mind, because... And, I'm kind of meandering now, but I have a few different points that'll tie this up. Because... I talk to so many people and I sit at so many tables, and almost at every table there was a good percentage of people who said they would vote. And this doesn't matter. Like the side that they were on in this election does not matter. They said that they would vote for a competent third-party candidate. They are essentially what describes a third-party candidate. They said they would have voted for a more conservative Democrat or a more progressive Republican. So many people agreed to that, and that was in a peaceful, simple conversation that it blew my mind. I'm like, all we needed was a candidate who wasn't either one of them, that could sort of be somewhere in the middle. And those exist, unfortunately, in third parties. But, like, all we needed was someone who could actually thread that fucking needle to, like, break up the stalemate of polarized democracy that exists in this country. And it blew my mind because people would admit it like that. People who seemed in the beginning of a conversation like staunch Trump supporters, like actual MAGA people. But then it turns out like they're just voting for him because they're so afraid of the other side. And that exists on both sides.
Well, here's the thing I'll say about that. I think that I don't like the argument that both sides of the extremists on the political party are both equally as bad, because they're not.
No.
And this is my opinion, but the far right wants to actively take rights away from people, yes, and has been open, and you can deny this all you want, has been open about wanting to exterminate certain groups of people. I mean,
there's a good portion of the far right. Yeah.
Donnie T literally said that he would use the military to like police people, and he wants to give police like one day where they can be as aggressive and brutal as they possibly
want. Like an anti-purge?
Yeah, basically like a purge, but only if you're wearing a badge.
Get ready for the blue line purge.
Like, he's literally said that stuff. And the thing is the people on the far left, God, like, we're not, I don't know anybody that would be classified as the far left that's like wanting to go out and like execute like MAGA people. Yeah. Like, the far left is just extreme in the sense that they want everybody to have rights.
Well, a lot of people on the far left are anti-gun. So like,
yeah, like, so it's,
yeah.
It's upsetting to me that people think there's a comparison here between the sides, because here's what it ultimately boils down to for me. And here's why I was very open and aggressive with my Instagram stories. Yeah. Because I know that the people that follow me are people that are gonna, like, when I said, like, if you voted for him and you follow me, like, stop. I knew none of the people that follow me voted for him, because if they did, like, what?
You were saying that for the entertainment value,
yeah, pretty much. Which a lot of people were like, that was funny, and I was like,
it was good.
But it comes down to me where you either voted for people being able to keep their rights, or you voted because you were scared that these invisible threats that you've been stupid enough to believe are going to come to fruition, and that scared you enough that you would rather vote against human rights of other people because you're so scared that you, in your bumfuck nowhere population of 300 town, might possibly have to exist in the same sphere as somebody who's queer.
Yes. The only argument I've heard from people who are Republican and conservative who voted for Donald Trump that like made an inkling of sense to me, because I live in upstate New York, so we have more land mass, right? We have people who unfortunately have been overlooked so it's not they feel like they're losing rights because the Democratic Party overlooks them in a way that Donald Trump makes them feel like they're not, even though I could argue and present the case that actually the Republican Party is going to overlook you as well. Like,
my question would be, what are they being overlooked for?
Well,
because
exactly.
What rights does a white man that's a farmer not have? What discrimination is a white woman who walks into Michael's for her craft project gonna face?
Exactly.
Like, the thing is I've heard that argument before, but to me that's the funniest one that I will quickly dismiss, because okay, let's take Bob Smith in upstate New York who voted for Trump, who's worried about his rights being taken away, and let's take I don't know, any queer person in America. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
what do you mean you've been
very
overlooked?
different. Yeah, well, and that's the thing, is like they feel that way, and so that's where I understand the argument is deep down something in them feels a certain way, and that's as a human, I just extend that basic courtesy and empathy, and I'm like, okay, so you feel that way, and then you can try to have as much of a conversation as you want, and you can present whatever cases that you want, but however entrenched that person becomes in the fear associated with that feeling will only bolster the way that they feel about the candidate that they voted for, right? And so fear-based politics, which unfortunately are a form of identity politics, which is what many people who voted in the MAGA realm would point at and say that Democrats are guilty of. But I would say actually all politics involve identity. But ultimately, so the people who are entrenched in that, they feel disenfranchised even if they're not. Right. And it's because someone is standing up and saying you're being disenfranchised. The results of this election are proof alone that straight white people have not been disenfranchised at all.
No, it's proving.
If anything, you are the franchise, baby.
Yeah. I mean, this election proves to me that it is easier to scare people into voting for what you want them to vote. It's easier to control people with fear, obviously, than it is with the promise of a better life. And what's telling about that to me is that, the results were way different than what I think anybody was expecting. Like the difference in votes too, was a larger gap than I think people were anticipating. And what it shows me is honestly that Donald Trump knows this country better than people realized, because he knows how to exactly tap into that bottom of the barrel fear that people that have had nothing to fear now have something that they can rally behind. Because I look at the MAGA party and I look at them and I go, you guys all had absolutely before 2016 nothing to worry about. Because let me just say this. On top of them having nothing to worry about and being stupid enough to fall for the fear-mongering of a failed businessman, additionally, what is so infuriating to me is that my sister lives in Alabama, so obviously, it's pretty red. Yeah. And people literally
wait,
there,
what? What do you mean? All right.
But like, she was telling me, literally like not too long before the election, that people in a town that she lives near, and I make that joke, bumfuck nowhere town population of 300. This town's population is literally less than 1,000. Yeah. And she was like, they're worried that, the LGBTQ is going to come swooping in and like take everything from them. She talked to people that actually believe that. Yeah. And why that's so infuriating is because you really think that a swarm of queer people are going to just all of a sudden decide to go to a town that has a population of less than 1,000 in the middle of fucking nowhere, Alabama? Like,
you think LGBTQ anti-gun people are going to come after you with what?
Exactly. With our ribbons and flags.
Yeah. Like, well, and what it comes down to is the unfortunate truth is that there have been quite a lot of Democratic policies that have left people who are in more rural areas feeling disenfranchised and overlooked, and that is that's just there, period. Like, we can leave that there. That is the fault of the Democratic Party, but it shouldn't extend further into the societal realm. Right.
No, and like to finish out like what I'm getting at with queer people aren't going to move to the middle of nowhere of Alabama.
Absolutely not.
What it really is
I'm like, where's the gay bar going to be? Like,
oh my god. and I'm not saying.
By the way, I have way more fun at gay bars as a sober person than I do at straight bars. By the way, I just want to throw that out there. like way more fun.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is, as somebody who knew they were queer but could never let it out because of where I lived in Florida.
Yeah.
And I grew up with people that were out.
Yep.
And honestly, like, they very much kind of kept it under the radar. Now, granted, this was like the mid-2000s, so it's a little different. But my point is that even if there is a queer person in that town of less than 1,000 people in the middle of nowhere of Alabama, if you're scared of one kid, because a majority of them are under the age of 18, because that's what they're really worried about. They're worried about them in school and in their neighborhoods and stuff. They don't actually care when they're an adult, because at that point, it's just another adult. They can legally beat them up if they wanted to, or illegally beat them up. But my point is that even if there is one queer person in your town that's super small, and you're scared of that one queer person, like, why?
Yeah.
Like, what has always completely baffled me as a queer person myself is that people are like so scared. Like, I mean, literally the word is homophobia, because they're scared of people. Like, and I've heard, it's always been, well, I don't want them to hit on me. Like, keep your dick away from my asshole. Like, all these like weird slurs and everything. But like, at the end of the day, it's like, for one, you forget
keep your dick away from my asshole. I'm trying to send dick pics to this chick. Unwanted dick pics. You're interrupting my unwanted dick pic sending.
And like, okay, I'm gonna be honest. As somebody who's attracted to, as somebody who is, I identify as pansexual.
You're attracted to everybody,
dudes.
All right,
but like a majority of these people, and I'm gonna use guys as an example that are like scared.
Yeah,
they're fucking ugly. Like, I wouldn't touch you even if I only liked you. But like, that's a joke. But to be serious, like,
I got bad news for you about the Red Hot Chili Peppers, bro. You know your guy Anthony Kiedis? Yeah, pansexual too. All right.
But like, you know how you say you relate to Deadpool? Yeah, he's pansexual.
Yeah, by the way.
Canonically, he's fucked Wolverine at least once. Sorry.
Yeah.
But like my point is that, like, what are you scared of? Like, and this is a genuine question. Like, genuinely, what are you scared of when it comes to somebody who uses they, them? Somebody who was born a woman but is actually a man?
Yeah.
Like, what are you genuinely scared of? Because here's the thing. If you're a big, tough, rootin' tootin', hard-working Republican man, then you should have the physical strength to overpower anybody, because that's what you guys love to brag about how strong and muscular and handsome you are, right?
Dude.
So from a physical side, what are you scared of? But from an emotional and a mental side, what are you actually like, do you think we all have like fucking superpowers and we're going to implant the gay bug in you?
Who knows?
Because, spoiler alert, if we had that power, all of America would be queer.
Yeah. Let's move on after this, but
let's not. Let me keep going.
Okay, keep going. I've got a couple of things, like, so whenever something happens like this and it's big and cultural and there are a lot of opinions around it, I have my own kind of like emotional reaction by myself, because I'd never want to take my knee-jerk emotional reaction onto a platform, into society, into a public forum, which is what social media is. It's a public forum, right? So I never want to take that reaction out there just immediately bald face value, right? Because there's a lot of introspection to do, there's a lot of thinking to do, and the more that I rein it in, the better formed it is and the better worded it is. But what happens a lot of times when something like this happens is I go back into social theory, philosophy, cultural theory, and I delve back into the greats, the people who said the things that other pundits are quoting, the people who formulated the theories that helped to found the entire nation, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Diderot, fucking Friedrich Nietzsche, for however, people who have lots of feelings and opinions on him, but like really a lot of his philosophy pervades the postmodern world. and there are a few quotes that kind of like helped me to kind of come to terms with this election and just like how I'm going to have to be moving forward. But to summarize the election, there's a quote that stands out. I think it's in I want to say it's in Twilight of the Idols by Friedrich Nietzsche. I might be wrong on the book, but I know that it's in one of his books, either Twilight of the Idols, The Antichrist, or Beyond Good and Evil. It's in one of those three. It might even be Ecce Homo. Anyway, I'm losing the point. Friedrich Nietzsche said, in democracy, if you want power, seek nobodies. And he wrote it in Latin, so it's suce nolens, right? Which is seek nobodies, which is find the disenfranchised, find the masses, because there's always going to be a majority of people who feel that way. So if you want power, seek nobodies. That's what was done here in many ways. And like if you're taking the term nobodies personally, check yourself on that. But like there's that, right? And then he also commented, and this is a really funny thing because I've heard a lot of my friends who are very staunchly Republican, dare I say, I don't know if they're MAGA, but they're kind of MAGA. They've said outwardly to me, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, and that fucking was itching the back of my brain for so long. I'm like, that's wrong.
They just crave
like,
violence.
It's wrong. I'm like, there's something wrong with that, and I don't know what it is. But I would go, oh yeah, because like obviously they're finding strength in that. They're bolstering their own self-confidence. Like,
I know what's wrong with that sentence.
Well, here's what's wrong with it, because it was itching my brain.
I want to know what you think is wrong with it.
Well, it was itching my brain. There's a second part to that, because I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. I was like, there's something wrong with that philosophy. And then I found the quote. And once again, Friedrich Nietzsche, he says, I think this is in Twilight of the Idols again. He says, in a time of peace, a warlike man turns upon himself. Now, that doesn't mean just himself. That means him, his brothers, the people around him, right? Like in a time, like if you know to function in war and you don't know how to function in the garden, you are just as useless as the gardener is in the war. Right? Yeah, that's the juxtaposition of that. It's an if-then equation, right? Because if you're only picking one and you cannot diversify yourself, then you will, in one way or the other, fail. And so like using those, I was able to kind of like reel myself back in and go, okay, there are obviously there are people who are afraid. They'd rather present this outward veil of masculinity and strength and whatever it is, however you identify it, as justification for the reason that they voted against their own fear, which is the undercurrent of why. Right? The fear is still there. It's an undercurrent whether you accept it or not.
Yeah. I mean, I would say what's wrong with that when I first hear it is, well, a warrior in a garden is just going to make a mess in the garden.
They're not going to, they're going to fuck up your crops. You're going to have a bad yield.
I look at it as, and I mean, as somebody who was in the military, like, why, I mean, I know, like, obviously you can look at, like, this or that situation and be like, well, why not both? But, like, truly, why not be a warrior when you need to be a warrior, and why not be, like a level-headed, normal individual when you're in society and it doesn't require you to be a warrior, which I would argue most situations, if not all, require you not to be a warrior.
Yeah, it's not why not both. It's you have to be both.
Yeah.
You can't not be both. You are a human. You're going
to wreck your garden,
We contain multitudes. And if you are not expressing those properly and learning and branching out, if you're limiting yourself and throwing blinders on, you are going to fall victim to easy manipulation every time.
I got a great real life story for this.
Hit me.
Veterans Day is coming up, obviously.
Monday.
And yeah.
Actually, when the podcast comes out.
Yeah. Look at
Happy
that.
Veterans Day.
So this
Give me an eagle
week...
screech. Do it?
Oh, I already did it.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to save it. You gave me permission. I'm going to hold on to that.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to put that in the bank.
Hit me with the story.
But the company I work for, we found a local veteran in need this last week. He hasn't had heat in 2 years, so we installed a new furnace for him. And I went out there to talk to him. He's got PTSD. Hasn't had heat in like 2 years. Obviously financially he's struggling because he's a veteran. So when I was talking to him, he was in the Army and he was in Vietnam, and he was over in Vietnam as a POW for 17 months.
Oh, wow.
And I was talking to him about that, and I was like, yo, like, I didn't say yo. Obviously, I was very respectful. This was an older guy with PTSD.
Yo,
so,
how
like,
was
like, yo,
POW
bro,
camp?
That is gnarly sick. Hang 10, brother. But
yo, tell me what that was like, bro.
yo, what was the Riz factor like in that POW camp, my brother?
All right.
Anyways, incredible guy. And I was talking to him, and obviously it came up that I was in the Marine Corps, and I was like, obviously I was never a POW. I mean, I was never even deployed, which I personally am pretty grateful for. And I was talking to him, and he was, he was kind of going over some of the stuff he went through. Like, he was being, I wasn't prying for information, but he was giving me some, like, someone like how bad the torture was and the mind games and things like that and yada yada. And then, so I asked him, I was like, if you don't mind me asking, sir, like, what was it like coming back to civilian life? Coming back from being a POW, coming back from one of the, the most mentally taxing wars that we've ever fought outside of World War I and World War II kind of thing. And he was like, he's like, I've struggled my entire life with like loud noises and PTSD. He's like, but I've tried so hard to break that like mindset of always having to be on the defensive.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he said. He's like,
yeah.
I was always on the defensive. And it, talking about all this and hearing that guy's story and, hearing your example, that's what it comes down to, is that
yeah.
I said it already, that I think the MAGA party is fueled by fear. And I think because they're fueled by fear, they're on the defensive even when they don't need to be.
Yeah.
And you can say what you want about it. I've already given the examples about education and availability of it and what Donnie T stands for. And I think what it just boils down to for me, and the way I view it at the end of the day, is these are people that want a reason to fight for something, whether it exists or not. These are people that are manipulated into believing that there is a fight that they need to stand up and fight, and if they don't, they're going to lose everything, when the reality is, because they're fighting this fight, other people are losing everything.
Yeah.
And they're also going to lose stuff. They just don't see it.
Yeah.
Everybody at the end of the day is a loser in this situation in this country.
Well, I mean, yeah, ultimately.
Except for the rich people, because his tax plan.
Well,
but
that's
ultimately,
the real enemy here is a wage gap, right? And like that's a harder conversation to have because it's more nuanced. But like that's unfortunately the people who voted MAGA voted for the wage gap to increase again. Like that's
they voted for the rich.
Yes, they voted against their own interest, thinking that the other side was somehow more against their own interest, even though it tends to be more the party of people and society. They voted for economy over society. They voted for money over morality. That's where that vote was, and a lot of people justified it that way to me. Really, like, at the end of the day, the first couple days real hard, like I had to hug my crying mom. I reached out to everybody that I possibly could and said, hey, I'm here for you. I know the next 4 years are going to be tough. I had to accept the fact, I'm like, a lot of the things that I like to do and the people I like to be around, that just got a little bit harder. And once again, going back to where I originally started with this, it's not because of him. It's because of the majority of the people who support him. Right? The people who are staunchly Donald Trump. Not the people who voted for Donald Trump because they didn't want to vote for Kamala. For the people who literally, for the past 12 years, have been on Donald Trump's dick. Like, those people are not peaceful people. They're not. They feel disenfranchised when they're not. They're very rooted in fear-based politics. They tend to defend anything he says, which includes any time he's said good things about Vladimir Putin, who is a dictator, Adolf Hitler, who is a dictator, like Kim Jong-un, who's a fucking dictator. Like, the man could praise dictators and you as an American go, yeah, that's fine as long as the LGBTQ and women don't have these things over here. Because I feel disenfranchised. I think the illusion of disenfranchisement needs to be stripped away in order for us to make any progress, because this election, if nothing else, in the next 4 years, if nothing else, have proven that white Christian nationalism has not been disenfranchised at all.
Well, that's the perfect head on the nail right there, too. Yeah. Is all these people that are scared of something are scared of... Part of 2025 is actually having more Christian values and Christian teachings in public education. Yeah. And why I think that's so funny.
And let's be real. This is their Christian values. This isn't. These are not Christ's values.
These are American
not
Christian
Christ-like values. These are superimposed, translated Christian values that are then applied sociologically, so they're already a twisted version of it.
Yeah. And it's telling when you look at the countries that say, hey, you guys are doing a great job.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing a great job by electing this person and you're going this route. You guys are doing a great job. If you look at those countries, do we want to be like Russia?
Yeah.
Do we want to be like China? Do we want to be like, countries in the Middle East? Do we want to be like North Korea? Or do we want to be like the countries that, are our allies that are like, hey, like, are you guys good? Like, and I'm not sitting here saying that like countries like Canada or Sweden or Denmark or Germany, which have their own issues. Like, I have a friend, Bo Ismono, in Germany who's been on the podcast. Germany has their own issues. I'm obsessed with Australia. Australia has their own issues.
Oh, yeah.
But the difference is, when I look at it, is the countries that support Donald Trump, like Russia, the people that don't have rights in those countries are the same people that are at risk in these countries. And the countries that at least are like, hey, I hope you guys stay okay, at least the people that are at risk of losing their lives in this country still have them for the most part in those other countries. And I'm not a country expert, so if there's a country that I name that their rights aren't as big, that's not my point. I'm sure some of those countries might not be as like welcoming as I say, but my point is that if you look at it on the whole, the people that are at risk in this country are the same people that are at risk and currently in the middle of that risk in those countries that are like cheering on Donald Trump. Like, I saw a video of this lady in Moscow, and she was in front of all the Russian guards. She was like, I feel so safe here to be able to record, and I feel safer here than I've ever felt in America. And then I saw a bunch of people that were legitimately like born and raised in Russia that like left, that were like, yeah, and the moment you say something you're not supposed to, all those Russian guards are going to throw you in prison and you'll never see the light of day again.
All that safety's gone, baby.
Yeah, like, it's so easy to pretend.
I don't think you understand this. You're just on their side right now.
Yeah, until you say something they don't like.
100%, yeah.
And it's sad, and I'm going to use this word. It is sad that here in this country, we are experiencing something similar. We're experiencing people that would rather strip away the rights of others in order to keep this imaginary fear that they have at bay. Yeah. And that is very, very sad.
Yeah. I mean, the summary for me, I posted it as a Facebook status because I'm so fucking pithy like that. Yeah.
Boomer.
Hold on. Let me grab my snifter glass for this. Now, No, as I thought deeply about it, the deepest and most profound thought I had for myself, because the only thing I can do is, change my own behavior and make sure that I'm prepared for whatever's happening, is I thought to myself, the greatest and hardest strength to cultivate is strength for others. Like, it's very easy for me to go to the gym, to read, to do all the things that I do, right? But having that strength built into me does nothing other than hoist myself up, right? Like, I can do things with that and I can act in the world. And if I do it in a selfish way, I'm going to cause more harm than good, even though I might elevate myself. But cultivating that strength and then giving it to my community, using that gift for my community and for all of the people of my community, is going to make the greatest difference and lessen the hardships of all of us overall, right? Like, I want to say all of us, like, I don't want to say on the whole, I don't know, I lost the word, but like, really, like, cultivating strength for yourself is selfish and does harm, but cultivating strength for others, although it is much greater and harder to cultivate, ends up having a greater impact and lessening hardships.
I agree.
And that's where I landed on. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, let's fucking go. And some of that strength is going to involve, at least on my part, based on the tables that I sit at, it's going to involve forgiveness for people who just didn't see the state of this election correctly, right? And and that's going to be the fucking, I'm not lying to you, that's going to be the hardest part for me.
So I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I respect your choice.
Thank you.
Obviously, I respect your choice. I'm not going to say what I'm going to say out loud because I don't want it to be on my permanent record of the internet. I don't want to get sent to the principal's office.
Are you unfriending me right now? But well, that's the tough part, right? It's like I do not want to be associated with the MAGA movement at all, right? However, I'm going to encounter people who are going to need grace and forgiveness from me as they say things that might come out delusional or just wrong. Yeah. I mean, and I'm prepared for that. I think I'm prepared for that. I don't know yet. We'll find out.
As prepared as you can, because like, here's the thing. I obviously I acknowledge that this last hour I have come out swinging, because I'm rightfully, and I believe I'm rightfully angry and upset. Yeah, no. I'm justifiably upset at the risk of the next 4 years. But the truth of the matter is, for me, I'm gonna encounter people that are MAGA. I'm gonna encounter people that are Republican, Democrat, and here's the thing: I'm gonna encounter people on all sides of every spectrum that suck. Whether you're straight, queer, Republican, Democrat, whatever minority you might be or not minority, man, woman, anything in between. Like, I heard somebody. Here's my final example.
I did mine, so yeah, go ahead.
Somebody was making jokes about a certain event that happened during World War II.
The Holocaust?
Yes.
Okay.
You
mean what happened the majority of World War II? All right.
Yeah.
Go on. A certain event.
They were making jokes, and at the end of the day, it was about a certain group of individuals deserving to go to those camps.
Yeah.
Not Jewish people, like a new group of people. Okay. And when it was brought up that like they were saying this stuff, the guy that was making the jokes was like, "Well, it's okay because I'm Jewish." And here's the thing. I'm not Jewish, so I'm not speaking on that. But what I am saying is there's this thing called slugs for salt. And no matter what group you belong, whether you're a part of the LGBTQ, whether you're a woman, a man, a minority, a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, whatever, there are always going to be people, my belief, in those groups that are actively against their own people. Yeah. There are queer people that voted for Trump. There are minorities that voted for Trump. There are women that voted for Trump. All people who voted against their own best interest. Yeah. And the truth is, that's going to always be the case. Yeah. And I'm going to encounter people. You're going to encounter people. We're all going to encounter people that are from all walks of life on every spectrum and everything that we've talked about. Yeah. And no matter how angry I am at a certain group of people or a certain belief, or I don't, talk about queer people getting shoved down your throat. I'm tired of religion being shoved down my throat. No matter how tired I am of all of this, if I encounter you on the street, I'm never, even if you're wearing a MAGA hat, like I'm never going to come off the rip just being like, you're a piece of fucking shit and I should burn your hat and burn you at the stake and I'm going to kick you off this airplane and tie it, like I'm never going to do that, because as angry as I am, I also don't care enough about you as an individual if you voted that way to engage in any kind of conversation that's going to waste my time to argue with a brick wall about why you chose what you did. Yeah. I will, if you bring it up, I will simply tell you I think you're wrong. But one thing that I think is important to acknowledge is that people make decisions. Right? Whether they're good decisions or bad decisions. We all have our opinions. I'm sure there's people that are MAGA that are going to disagree with you and I, just like we disagree with them. Yeah. And the only thing I hope and I pray for, and the only thing I can really honestly kind of hold out for these next 4 years, is that the people I encounter will at least be human beings on the basic level of being cordial towards each other. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, if I meet you and you're MAGA and you have very strong opinions and you want to have a civilized conversation where it doesn't, voices don't get raised and no feelings get hurt, I love those kinds of conversations. Yeah. But I also know there's plenty of people that I'm going to encounter that are just going to come out the gate being like, well, you're an FAG and you're a piece of shit. And it's like, fine, if that's your opinion, hey, dude, like, waste your breath and waste your time. Yeah. Truth of the matter is, for me, it's mostly going to roll off my back because, one, I'm very proud to be queer. Two, I've already gotten death threats before Donald Trump was president on my YouTube channel, so bring it on. Ain't nothing fucking new. Three, I've been insulted my entire life for painting my nails, so your words cannot hurt me. And four, if that's how you feel, if you view me as a queer person or your neighbor down the street who's a minority or your wife as property, if you view us as threats or as, property or whatever, like, yo, that's on you. Yeah. And it sucks to be you if that's how you live your life. Yeah. Well,
you made me think of one more thing. People always say, be the change you wish to see in the world. And the thing that I wish would change is I wish more cis het white dudes could be accepting and have more empathy and baseline courtesy for people. And so that's what I'm choosing to be for the next 4 years, right?
And
that's where it is. That and that extends to everybody that I come across, right? I don't think I've had a single conversation in the past year where I've even levied like a slight at someone based on an opinion or a feeling that they had. And that's what I want. I want more of that. And so that's why, I'm saying I sit down at a lot of different tables. And it's not because I'm choosing to sit down at those tables. It's because an invitation was sent my way. And the invitation was sent my way because of the baseline respect, empathy, courtesy that I have for people. And I want to see that more universally in our country. And so I'm just going to keep being that. And a lot of my friends who are in the LGBTQ community who I reached out to this week to say, hey, I'm here for you. Is there anything I can do? A lot of the response was, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So you made me think of one last thing.
Let's keep going, and then I'll do one more.
Just never stop. Yeah. We're still recording to this day.
Yeah.
My last point, and this goes back. Actually, this is a perfect way because I'm going to tie this way back to my original point of how I can straight pass and stuff if I want to.
Back to the beginning.
What I love, what I think is really funny, and this is something to keep in mind for everybody.
Yeah.
The amount of times that I have had a conversation with somebody, met somebody, started to talk to them, and then it either comes out that I'm queer because I use terminology like partner, or it comes out that I'm not a fan of Trump because I say something that makes it clear, whether it's name dropping him or just like a slight comment about the status of something.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to me to watch people's faces change because I value myself on being a people person. I love to talk to people. I'm a very social, I'm a very outgoing, I'm a very extroverted person.
Mm-hmm.
So to have these conversations with people that view queer people as like an enemy and a threat, and for them to realize in the middle of the conversation that I am one of those, and to watch their brain be like, wait a minute,
sleeper cell.
It's like, but like I can literally watch them in real time be like, wait a minute, this is somebody I'm not supposed to like, but I'm having a good conversation and they seem normal, but at the same time they're this thing I'm not supposed to like, and I can see the wheels where they're like, I don't know how to do this because I don't outwardly always look queer to some extent. It's funny to me because if you sat down and talked to a majority of people that you view as the quote unquote enemy, and you just looked at them as a person, as a human being, as another resident on this rock floating through space we call Earth, you would have good conversations.
Oh yeah.
You would realize that just because Joseph down the street also likes men and he is a man does not mean that he doesn't have interesting things or value to bring to you in your life.
Absolutely. Here's a funny anecdote, because I'm sure this will come up in the near future. I spar with and Muay Thai sparring, so we're throwing on gloves and literally hitting each other in the face. I spar with he's a higher ranking official in the Young Republicans Party of New York, right? So he represents the Young Republicans. And there is a member of our same club who sometimes comes in spars, and they are transitioning. And he, out of comfort, went to say to me, I didn't realize that they were a they. And then I just very calmly, you know how I am. I have like Labrador Retriever energy, right? I was just like, oh, well, good for them. And like, it's the same thing you're describing. Like I could see on it, like the computer brain went, wait, hold on. Did I say something wrong? Do I need to change the way I feel about this person? Like, and I was just like, I just kind of went back to sparring. We didn't have it. That's the furthest any sort of social or political discussion has gone for us. But I'm sure it's going to keep coming up in the future because of, that's actually his job, right? So like he's getting paid to be a Republican, so I'm sure it's going to come up. But I'm very intrigued to see, because like I said, I'm going to be extending this grace and empathy and, consideration to as many people as I possibly can. But like, I'm very interested to see how those conversations evolve over time over the next 4 years. Yeah. So that's Your story made me think of that because, like, obviously that's a funny little anecdote about diversity just existing, and then someone being afraid of it and expressing it to someone that they thought was the same as them, right? And a lot of people will flat label me as something based on how they see me existing in the world, and that's fine. We have biases. We make judgments. It's okay, right? But when you learn something different about me, I'm paying attention to how your reactions change,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
I think.
I
was gonna say, I think this was a good conversation.
Yeah.
And to put a bow on it, because I don't want to just leave with anybody feeling like, and I don't think either of us are having this conversation to feel like we're attacking anybody.
I don't think we did attack anybody.
I hope that anybody listening just views this more as these are two people. One of which is very concerned about the next 4 years for my well-being.
I'm also concerned.
This is just meant to be a conversation and expressing opinions
Yes.
and how we view things.
Yeah.
As always, you are welcome to disagree.
Yeah.
But if you are going to disagree, we would just ask, obviously, keep it civil.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. Look, I'm always up for a conversation. If you want to hit me up on Instagram and be like, hey, you said this thing and I disagree, I will happily have a calm and reasonable conversation with you. That is never not the case for me.
Yeah.
But if you're going to message me on Instagram and be like, you're a fucking idiot because you think this, then like, I'm going to screenshot that and I'm going to put you on blast.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at in my life. If
Yeah.
you come after me and you're disrespectful, I'm putting you up on all my social medias on blast.
There you go.
Yeah.
At least you've issued the warning.
Yeah. You've been warned.
What you write, will be shared.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Let's get back to our regular programming now. Do you feel good?
I feel great.
Are we good to get back to the regular program? By regular programming, I mean we're registered as a comedy podcast, not even a TV and entertainment podcast, although we kind of center around TV and entertainment because that's a passion
It's
that
my
we
specialty.
share. Well,
Yeah.
we share it, yeah. Don't take that away from me, Odie. You trying to take my rights away?
Yeah.
I'm being disenfranchised on my own podcast.
You're darn right. I told you I'm the captain.
But yeah, what's your jam this week? You got anything good for me?
I got two.
Hit me.
Because I think I texted.
Two tends to be the norm for us.
Yeah.
What are your
just-
jams
okay.
this week?
I told you when I flew down to Florida for the wedding that I was like, I have jams for the next like 2 months because I watched and consumed so much. So I'm still working
You should
my
have
way
just done
through that.
a wedding jam dump on me.
Yeah, pretty much. I watched so much
That sounded
content in the
gross.
airport.
Never mind.
So the first one, I'll tell you why I look up I got to look up the name for the second one. But the first one, somebody I've been sleeping on in the music realm, Sabrina Carpenter's Short and Sweet album.
Oh shit! Really? You just heard Sabrina Carpenter's?
Yeah.
album?
So funny enough, and this isn't me being like, this isn't me bragging, being like, yeah, I never listened to Sabrina Carpenter. She just wasn't on my radar.
Yeah, that
Truthfully,
makes sense.
I like Olivia Rodrigo's music, and I just was always in the impression that, and this was wrong of me.
If you like one, you can't like the other.
Yeah, pretty much. No.
Oh, really?
No. It's one or the other. I voted for Olivia, so.
I voted for Olivia.
No, it was. I just kind of always assumed that she was like a mini Taylor Swift kinda, and
She's
not.
more like a mini, not even mini. She's tiny, so like she's more like an Ariana Grande, but blonde edition.
She's very tiny, but where I'm getting with all this is just basically really love her music. The song Juno is just one of the catchiest jams of the winter. But mainly because I saw a lot of clips of her on her tour, and that's what made me want to listen to her. So as I'm editing Magnum Opus videos, I was putting her on in the background because I always have music on, and really good. Like she's now made it into my rotation. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
I might have 3, so I apologize.
That's fine. Hit me.
The other one that I want to mention real quick is Spy Kids. Now this is something I am covering on Magnum Opus, but I just want to say the first Spy Kids movie is a fever dream of fun if you don't mind watching kids be in the main role. But
it's wild.
If you've never seen the first Spy Kids movie, or if you haven't seen it in a while, or you're like me and you grew up with it because you were like the right age. I think I was like 10 when it came out.
Yeah.
Give it a watch. I did all 5 on Magnum Opus. I'm working on that video now. There's 5 Spy Kids movies. Did you fucking know that?
I did. Actually.
I didn't. I thought there was 4.
I have siblings of all the right ages to have known that.
Yeah. So I just want to shout out Spy Kids, but then the other one that I want to mention because I'm super excited about, it's kind of a not jam. There is a Gundam animated show, 6 episodes on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking terrible.
Oh, no.
Did not enjoy it. I watched all of it.
Oh, no.
As somebody who's a gigantic fan of the original Gundam, Gundam was my first anime. It was my first love. I had action figures. I had toys. I had it all.
You're not a fan.
Originally, Andy Muschietti, who did It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2, was tapped to do a Gundam movie.
Which would have been dope.
He stepped away. Now he's doing Batman Brave and the Bold, and he's supposed to do the Attack on Titan live action because he's a big fan of the manga and is working with the creator.
Okay, cool.
Last we heard.
We like that.
But the director, Jordan Vaught Roberts, I think his name is. He directed Kong Skull Island.
Oh, okay. We like that.
With a guy named Jim Mickle, who's a great writer. I don't have any of his work off the top of my head.
Okay.
But they have been tapped for the Gundam live action movie. So, as somebody who was disappointed with the most recent animated version, I will explore.
I hope it's good. Because Kong Skull Island was like the most interesting Kong film.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
It
was very dynamic.
Here, I'm gonna be honest with you. If there is one anime, and I mean one, out of all the animes that I love, if there's one that I could see turned into live action, it's Gintama. It's Gundam. Oh. It's Gundam. It's Gundam.
Yeah.
It's
Ranma 1/2.
I've seen every Gundam anime. I had every fucking action figure. I had every toy. Gundam was everything. Like, you know how people are like Dragon Ball Z was everything when I was growing up. One Piece, it was Gundam. Gundam is my One Piece. Gundam is my Dragon Ball. Gundam is my Bleach. Like, I'm gonna rewatch Gundam. Anyways, what's your jam?
You gave me a little bonus jam, so I'm gonna throw this in at the beginning. Joe Manganiello is playing Crocodile for One Piece live action.
Oh yeah.
That is a jam for me. Not because I've seen it yet, but just I love Joe Manganiello. I love his story. I love his little chihuahua that he carries around the world with him named Bubbles. Like I never meet your heroes, I guess. Like hopefully I never meet him and like shit's wrong or something, but like from what I can see, dude's cool. Living the dream, he was big on True Blood. Then it turns out he's a huge nerd. He's got a big D&D cave in his basement. Now he's going through a crazy divorce, probably because of the big D&D cave in his basement. But he got tapped to play Crocodile, and I was like, oh hell yeah, that's visually and like and sonically, like his voice fits it. Like he's the perfect person.
The casting
to
on One
play
Piece
that.
is
superb.
As somebody who's never seen the anime or read the manga, all I know is just as somebody new to the One Piece, all the actors just feel really good in their role.
The thing that I like the most about what's going on with One Piece, the live action, is that people who are huge fans of the anime and the manga, right, which sometimes like even fans of the manga and the anime will bicker a little bit.
Yeah.
All of them seem to agree, no, this was the best it could have been, right? Like every single one of them is like, it's not my favorite, it's not my One Piece, but it's the best it could have been, and I like it, right? And so, like, that in itself is good. And then just seeing them cast him rather than going and finding, like, because it's fucking Netflix. They can grab, apparently, Chris Evans, The Rock, or someone else at any moment, you know, and just be like, you're in this now. And they're like, yeah, pay me a few fucking million. But, like, just tapping him, like I said, visibly he represents that villain. That is going to be such a telling season for this show, because this will be because if they have Crocodile in it, they'll either be getting up to or going partway through the Alabasta arc, which is in the One Piece world. That's the arc that really sold a lot of people who became lifelong fans of the anime and the manga, was that arc. Yeah, so it's really pivotal. And seeing him as the antagonist for that is huge. My other jam is, and I just watched this last night because it was the longest fucking week. I'm not kidding, man. I averaged like anywhere from 4.5 to 5 hours of sleep every night. I was exhausted. I took a little hit of a nice little pen that I got, right? And I sat down and I watched. I was like, you do the scroll, right? You're looking for a thing. And then eventually, if you can't find a thing that was in your mind to begin with, or like you're debating too much, you just pick a random thing. And the thing that I picked semi-randomly was Pool Man with Chris Pine.
Chris Pine, his debut.
It is fucking so good.
Is it really?
It is so good.
All right, I'm going to watch it. What was it on?
It was on Hulu. At least that's what I watched it on, even with commercials, and it was so good. Like,
I'm gonna look it up.
It's so low stakes in so many ways, and it was just everything that I needed. It's like a comedy mystery thriller, and he just seeing Chris Pine, the way that they show him in the beginning, this doesn't even spoil anything, just the way that he, in the very beginning, he wakes up, he's obviously living a low-income lifestyle, he goes out, he puts a CD into a CD player, and then he puts on his headphones, and he starts cleaning a pool. And I was just like he's got a long gray beard and long blonde hair, and just, I'm like, first off, Chris Pine is someone that, like, you can't make him look ugly. But they did their best. They did their best. And so, like, dude still looks like Chris Pine. But then these other characters that are around him just elevate the entire fucking film. It's so good. And, like, there's a really funny kind of, like, simple and quirky moral, and, like, it made me think of, like, classic Coen brothers stuff, you know, like Fargo, The Big Lebowski. Like, it gave me a lot of those vibes, but it was much more happy-go-lucky in so many ways. And so, like, multiple times I was just cackling at this movie. I cannot stress the comedy is done right, and that makes the rest of the movie, even the more serious moments, feel better. So yeah, big time Pool Man fan. Throw it down on that. That is it for me this week. Odie, what are you doing today? Let's wrap it up with that. What are you doing today? What do you got going on? Why do we have to end this podcast right now?
Well, I have to go to the bathroom.
Oh, wow, great. Remember I did that last week and you had to take us out?
Yeah.
All right, your turn. Go ahead. Go to the bathroom. I'm going to take us out, and you come back, and we'll finish. All right, Odie, just proving that you got a small bladder. I mean, I don't have a small bladder. I just drank a lot of liquid last week. I mean, if we were to compare bladder sizes, they're probably relatively the same, right? I mean, Odie and I were relatively same stature. For anybody who's never met us in person, both of us are about 6 foot, right? Both of us are Caucasian males. Both of us are about, probably in the like 180 to 200 pound range. So, me, I just, I wake up and I do my drink coffee thing, right? So I'm drinking coffee in the morning. I drink about 500 milliliters of coffee. That's a decent amount of coffee for a human being to drink. And then I sit down here, and for the podcast's sake, I usually am continuing the coffee, or I have water with me. And the water is mostly just to lubricate my voice, which is sounding more hoarse by the year. So I have a feeling I'm inevitably going to lose my ability to sing the way I've always been able to sing, and that my voice is just going to descend into kind of like this gravelly, smooth voice, and I'm gonna have to adapt a lot of the things that I do in my life to fit that new voice, because that does happen. Modulization of a voice, and the degradation of vocal cords over time, without any sort of intervention of surgery or whatever, that will change the way that you sound as a human being. So then eventually you just kind of like, you settle into like this almost like Ian McKellen mode of speaking.
I love
very
Ian McKellen.
Gandalf-y. Yeah. Anyway, let's wrap the podcast up. I wasn't talking about too much, Odie.
I just came back in time to say goodbye. Goodbye.